Samvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Ganta Radha Kanta Namasute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayavcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, so let's start. Now as you can see in the slide, these are the 10 things that should not go to our head. These are the 10 heads of the Ravana. Each head is representing one vice. So we've done Kam, Krodh, and Moh. Today we are going to do Lobh. So Kam is lust, Krodh is anger, Moh is attachment or delusion, and today Lobh, that is we will do the greed, the fourth one if you can see. Then the other are Mad, Matsarya, Abhavmatra, Ahankar, Swarth, and Durmati. Basically, we'll change the name of these so that you're more familiar with the ones, the last 3, 4. But for now, we'll just stick to Lobha. Okay. Now, as we do, we do the positive aspect and the negative aspect of both the things. And so we'll begin with that. We'll go to the negative aspect of greed. So if you can move on to the next slide, please.
Yep, and kindik pota.
Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. So now, as we can see, the negative side of the story that we are going to take in that is that of Nimai and the 2 thieves. So I'll read this to you. In his childhood, Nimai, that is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was taken away by 2 thieves outside his home. Nimai got up on the shoulders of the thieves, and while they were thinking they were safely carrying the child to rob his ornaments, little Nimai misled them, and thus instead of going to their own home, the thieves came back to the home of Jagannath Mishra, that is father of Nimai. So this is a pastime where what happened was, once Nimai when he was very little, so he was his mother always put a lot of jewels on him. So though Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata were not well off to begin with, but as Nimai appeared in their life and he was born to them, he being the husband of goddess of fortune, along with his appearance came all the fortune, and then they were doing pretty well. So he used to wear ornaments, and Mother Sachi used to decorate him with ornaments, but actually it was the ornaments that were beautified because they were on the Lord himself. So seeing these ornaments, there were 2 thieves who wanted to get these ornaments from him, and they tried to kidnap him once, and kidnap him in the sense they wanted to take him far in the jungle and take off the ornaments that were adorned and then bring him back. But as we know, Mahaprabhu, we cannot fool Mahaprabhu. Nobody can do that. So they tried, and they put him on the shoulders, and they were going round and round in circles. Now, because they were going round and round in circles, every time they would try to stop, it would be outside the house of Nimai himself. And from that, they understood that. And after a certain point, they heard the noises from inside, because they started looking for Nimai, and Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata, they started looking for Nimai, and that's when they heard the noises, and they left the child right outside the house and they fled. So the point is, they went through this shram, but it was of no use. As Srila Prabhupada says, anything which we do and it is not related to Krishna, then it is shram eva hi kevalam. It is useless effort. So it was a useless effort in this regard, because the intention wasn't right. So, what does actually greed do to us? Greed, basically, when not used in Krishna consciousness, it brings only material suffering. As we see in this pastime, they were tired, they were exhausted carrying the little Nimai, but it didn't do any good to them because they were not in the right frame of mind. They were doing it with the wrong intention. So, materially, it really brings a lot of suffering to us. Now, to understand this, I can tell you one example. So, basically, greed is lobe, it's lolium, it's the desire to possess something desperately, but it may need not necessarily be in the right sense. So, materially, if you think so, I'll tell you a very small story in this regard. There was this little boy who once saw his mother putting some berries in a jar which had a very narrow opening. Now, when his mother left, the boy desired to eat those berries. So he put his hand in the jar to get the berries out. Now, when the mouth opening, of the jar was very small, so when you put your hand in, it is very hard to get all the berries at the same time, because when you put your hand inside to grab the berries, you have to fold your hands in a fist, and with the narrow opening, the whole fist was not ready to come out of the jar. That was causing pain for that little boy. But he was so desperate to have the berries. His desire to not give up the berries was so strong that he was tolerating that pain. But eventually he understood that he has to let some berries go, tilt his hand in such a way that only can his hand come out of the jar. So the point is that it was the greed to have all the berries which made him, hold them in the form of a fist, and that fist was not able to get out of. Every time he would try to do that, every time he would get hurt. So he would bring it, up to a little level, up in the jar, and it would start hurting, and then again he would put his hand back down, leave a few berries, try, and then again with the greed to have all of them, again try to hold of them and bring his hand out. It was not working at all. So just as these two thieves who were running around and around and around the house of Mahaprabhu, Nimai at that time, similarly, this little boy, he was trying to hold the berries, give them up, again try to hold them, again give them up, all inside the jar. But he could not bring his hand out. So what was the net result? The pain, the suffering that he had to go through, because every time he would try to pull his hand out of the jar, it would not work. So materially, anything that you're trying to accumulate for no reason, it only ends up in suffering. So basically, we'll move on to the next part of the presentation, where there is a small story which is again based on greed. So if you can play this story, that will be nice. So kids, carefully listen to this small story. Go ahead. We cannot hear.
Mataji, give me a minute.
Sure, no worries. So in the meantime, till that story is being played, let us talk about this. So we know in materially, the persons who are greedy, that they are really condemned. Because greed is considered to be one of our enemies. Now, even Bhagwan Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. Okay, let's first listen to this and then we'll go ahead.
The greedy merchant. Abdullah was a rich but greedy merchant. After having sold his spices in faraway lands, he was ready to go back home with his 40 camels. On his way back, he met a holy man. The holy man, confiding in him, said, I can take you to a place full of precious stones and jewels like you have never seen before. You can load your camels with all you can find, but you must give me half of it." Abdullah's eyes were shining as he agreed. The two of them reached the secret and lonely land in the middle of tall mountains. Abdullah could hardly wait. The man pulled out a small ancient box from his bag. He took some mysterious powder out, muttered under his breath, and sprinkled it on the ground. To Abdullah's astonishment, an opening appeared in the mountain before him. It led into a cave full of precious, sparkling jewels and gold. Abdullah quickly packed the riches onto his camels. Now, greedy Abdullah wanted more than a share of 20 camels. He said to the holy man, "You're a holy man. Why do you want so much of the treasure? Let me have 30 camels, and you can keep 10. The holy man understood Abdullah's greed and was disgusted, but he agreed. Since he had agreed so easily, Abdullah decided to try for more. 10 camels will also be a burden to you. Give those to me as well, he said. The holy man decided that Abdullah needed to be taught a lesson, so he agreed. Abdullah was still not satisfied. "The box too is of no use to you. Why don't you let me have that as well?" The holy man said, "All right, you can take it, but never use it. If you put the powder in your right eye, you will see everything as gold. But if you put it in the left eye, you will go blind." Then he walked away. Abdullah did not heed the man's warning. He sprinkled the powder in his right eye and was thrilled to see everything in gold. "Imagine how much gold there would be if I sprinkled it into my left eye as well," he said. Unfortunately, the minute he did so, he went completely blind, just as the holy man had warned. Abdullah had learnt his lesson the hard way, but now it was too late to repent.
All right. So from this story, we see that how the greed made him suffer. It was the greed that made him become blind in the end. So greed, basically, there is no limit to greed. Even Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita explains us, Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, verse number 21. He says, "Trividham narkasedam dwaram nashnamaatmana kam krodhasthatha lobhas tasmadetattrayam tyajet." Basically, he's saying that give up these three. What three? Kam, krodh, and lobh. Lust, anger, and greed. If you become influenced or affected by them, then you will open your door to hell. So give them up. So it's a very commonly known fact from Bhagavad Gita that these are commonly known as the three gateways to hell: Kam, Krodh, and Lobh. Lust, anger, and greed. Because they will only make you suffer materially. So we did the story of the little boy. So Bhagwan is saying in Bhagavad Gita, give up greed. But now the question arises, how can we use greed in the service of the Lord? So greed can be used in the service of Lord. As we know, everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So even the seed of greed, it exists both in Lord and the Bhakta. Now, question arises, how can you use this greed in the service of the Lord? Firstly, what is it that you should greed for in the service of the Lord? So basically, to achieve Krishna consciousness perfectly, you don't need money. You don't need prestige or good parentage or beauty. What do you need? Just intense desire to serve the Lord, the greed to achieve the Lord. This greed is what we need to develop. And how do we develop this greed, this attraction for the Lord? By hearing. Hearing is the only way to begin with. The whole it starts with the 9 processes of devotional service. They also start with Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu Smaranam. So, what is most important is to hear. See, I'll give you a very mundane example. We all are into these, we all have some or the other role models in our lives. So, like, I'll give you the example of, say, basketball, right? So, the kids here in US are very much into basketball. Now, when you don't see the person, your favorite NBA player, you see him on the screen, and then you hear about him, and then you research or you surf about him, and the more you know about him, the more you want to see him, meet him. People even go to the extent of buying the jerseys that has their number on it. All this is, you don't know the person in person, as in you've never met him personally. It's just the word of mouth, what you've heard from people. You see some quality in that person, that he's a nice basketball player, and you have the same interest, and that is what draws you to him. And when this is applicable on a mundane, materialistic jiva, we are talking about a living entity who we have never met, but we develop a desire to see that person based on what we have heard about him first, seen him about, heard about his qualities in terms of whatever he's good at. Then why not the Supreme Lord? Because this all starts from Supreme Lord only. So the more we hear about the Supreme Lord, the more we want to be with him. So the greed or the desire to be engaged in the service of the Lord can be developed by Shravana. Now, this seed of greed, as we are talking about, this exists both in Bhagwan and Bhakta. Now, you may ask, how in Lord? Why Lord has greed? Now, the question is, what is it he greedy about in terms of what is it that he's looking for? For us, we as sadhakas, as practicing devotees, we need to develop greed for more and more sadhu sangha, more and more basically association of the devotees, to hear more about Krishna. This is the greed which we need to develop, because this greed is spiritual by nature. So now, how does the seed of greed come from the Lord? To understand this, see, the thing is, greed in itself, when used in the service of the Lord, is nice, but materialistic people, they don't know how to use the greed, because they direct it towards their material enjoyment and material possessions, which makes them suffer in the end. But when it comes to spiritual greed, we are being greedy about association, about Hari Katha, about service of the Lord. So all this will take us back to Godhead. So this greed is very nice. So now, to understand this, can you go to the next slide, please? Now, Lord, basically, the one after actually, and we'll come back to this one. Yeah, this one. So basically, the Lord appeared as Mahaprabhu, we know, but for what? Why did he appear as Mahaprabhu? There were 2 reasons of him to appear as Mahaprabhu. One was the external cause, and one is the internal cause. The external cause is called the Bahirang Karanam, and the internal cause is the Antarang Karanam. So the external cause, it is, he came, we all know that he came to kill the sinner, not the sinner. He came to give out the mercy to people. He came to bring everyone back to Godhead, back to him. So it was for others, basically. That's why he came. But internally, there were 3 reasons why he came. He wanted to know what is Radharani's love. He wanted to know what about his beauty that draws Radharani to him. And what pleasure does Radharani derive in his association? So these were the three desires which he could not understand as Krishna, and these desires were so strong and intense, more like three types of greed, which actually made him appear as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now you may understand that, you may question that Lord is complete in himself. He's full in six opulences. Then what? He doesn't need anybody to complete him. He doesn't have any deficiency. But why does he still develop greed? Now, if you take these six opulences in itself, so one of them is strength, the valor, the chivalry. That rasa you can enjoy only when you're fighting with somebody, right? So if I have some strength and I will enjoy that rasa, I need an opponent with whom I can fight, and the opponent has to be of the same strength, at least same caliber, to a certain extent that I would enjoy. So when Lord is in Vaikuntha, one time it so happened that he was in Vaikuntha and he developed the greed to fight. He developed the desire to enjoy this mellow. But there's nobody who's as strong or who's as capable in terms of valor and strength that he can fight there. And there is no fight basically up there, right? It's only the part of this material world. For him to enjoy that rasa, Yog Maya played a major role. She made arrangements, and the pastime happened when the four Kumaras, they went to see the Lord, and they were stopped by Jai and Vijay, the two doorkeepers of the Lord. It was only for the Lord to enjoy this greed, to fight, to enjoy this pastime, that the whole episode where Jay and Vijay were cursed and then they had to come down as demons. They were given a choice, either 3 lifetimes as demons or 7 lifetimes as devotees, and they thought that 7 is too much, so they chose the 3 lifetimes as demons, and they thought they were going to come down on the material plane. And that's when the Lord appeared. They appeared as Jai and Vijay appeared 3 times as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, Shishupal and Dantavakra, and Ravana and Kumbhakarna. So the Lord came down on this material plane just to satisfy his greed of fighting, and he fought with these demons in these 3 lifetimes, one of them being where he came as Lord Nrsimhadev. Now, we can go to the previous slide of the rasas. So from this, we are going to understand how one rasa led to the other rasa, the mellow, and how one incarnation led to the other incarnation. So now when Hiranyakashipu, he came, and obviously, the Lord wanted to enjoy the rasa, and then he came down as Lord Nrsimhadev, and he fought with the demon. Now, after fighting with the demon, the Lord, so Nrsimhadev also has 2 forms, okay, Ugra and Anugra. Ugra is fearsome and Anugra is peaceful. Now, when he was fighting with Hiranyakashipu, when he killed him, after that particular form was fearsome, but after he was, yes. Anybody has anything to say? Okay, so we'll move on. So Hiranyakashipu, when he fought with Nrsimhadev, and Nrsimhadev ripped his chest apart and his intestines, he took his stomach apart and took out the intestines. That particular form, you can imagine how fearsome it was. Everybody was so scared, and when the whole pastime happened, nobody was ready to go in front of Nrsimhadev to pacify him. Or even Lakshmi Devi, she said, I don't know this, he's not my husband, I don't know, I've not seen this form of my husband. So they all asked Prahalad Maharaj that it is for you that he chose this form of half man and half lion. Now you please go and satisfy him and pacify him. So when Prahlad Maharaj approached Nrsimhadev took Prahlad Maharaj, made him sit on his lap, and in that parental love, he was showing a lot of affection. When that happened, Nrsimhadev developed a desire. So, when there is a loving exchange between the father and the son, yes, the father enjoys that parental affection, but it is the son who enjoys more, because the son at that particular time is in that age, in that young age, the what is a child looking for? Love, security, affection. That is what the child feels, and the child feels very content when the child is in the lap of. You all have experienced this. So yes, it is both ways. The father is equally happy, but the child is more dependent on the parent at that particular age, so he feels more safe and secure. So though Prahlad Maharaj was sitting in the lap of Nrsingadev developed the desire to be held and cuddled and loved just like a small child. That led to his incarnation as Lord Ram. Because we know when Lord Rama came, Dashrath Maharaj was totally in awe and love with his child. He could not part with his child for a moment. Even the Gurukul days when he was actually sent to learn scriptures, those were the most difficult days for Dashrath Maharaj. And when Lord Ram came back, and right after that, when Vishwamitra Muni came to get Lord Ram to get rid of Tadka and the other demons in the forest, Dashrath Maharaj was so disheartened. He was like as if somebody is taking his life out of his body. But then, yes, he did do that. And we know the whole pastime, that it was the affection for his child which led to the whole pastime of Dashrath Maharaj, how he left his body, and how Kekai Mata and everybody else, mantra on because of mantra and Kekai Mata, they had to go to the forest. So this Vatsalya Bhav was enjoyed by Lord Ram. Now this is the Supreme Lord we are talking about, right? In this particular pastime itself, there were again how the two others incarnations, how the other incarnation took place, but based on two more rasas. So here we are talking about the Vatsalya rasa, which is the parental love. Now, in the pastime of Lord Ram, we know the entire pastime when Mother Sita was abducted by Ravana and Lord Ram went looking for her. He sought help of Sugriv. Also, when they reached Lanka, Vibhishan came to help Lord Ram. They both became very dear friends of Lord Ram. Now, friendship again is in two forms. It is Sambhrama and Vishrambha. Sambhrama is friendship in awe and reverence, and Vishrambha is friendship with equals, that there's awe and reverence. So in Lord Ram's pastime, which as you can see in the picture with Lord Ram, there are two monkeys there. So we know with monkeys, he had a very nice friendship. You know what? Actually, how it so happened that the animals were involved in killing of Ravana, because Ravana at that particular time was so, when he performed austerities to please the Lord, to get a boon equivalent of being immortal, and when Lord Brahma said that he could not do that, but he asked for everything, just like Hiranyakashipu, that I should not be killed inside or outside by a weapon or whatever Hiranyaksha asked, and all those similar boons were asked by Ravana. But Ravana was very, very proud of his might, his strength, and he used to toss around, the demigods actually were working for Ravana. They were so scared of him. So he never thought of this, that he should ask this boon, that he should not be killed by any human or animal. That is why Lord came as Lord Ram in the form of a human being, playing the part of a human being basically, and animals like Hanuman and all the Sugriv, Jamvan, all these animals, even the squirrel to begin with, when we were talking about making of the bridge, even the squirrel, all these animals helped. Why? Because Ravana had, out of his pride, didn't feel the need that he should be asking a blessing where he didn't want to be killed by an animal or a human being, and that's how the Lord took this form, and along with these monkey army, he was able to defeat Ravana. So I was seeing somebody has a question. What is the question? Then we'll move ahead. Someone has a question I saw in the chat. Okay. Minakshi, your hand is raised. Do you have anything to say, beta? Oh, Hari Kirtan is one, and so is Suraj. I see 3 hands raised. Anybody has anything to say, or can we move ahead? Okay, so so now coming back to Sakyaras. So the Lord had a very strong bonding. Okay, Hari Kirtan wants to unmute. Mihika, if you can do that.
Okay. Try unmuting.
Yeah, I wanted to say that everybody was so scared that Narsingha they would appear that then they Shiva Bhagwan took a form and then he had to kill Narsingha Dev because then everybody was so scared that Narsingha Dev, because he was like a half man, half lion, and he looked terrifying to everybody except Prahlad Maharaj. So that's why before he came, he told Shiva Bhagwan to take a form after he kills Hiranyakashipu, and then he has to kill him just so everybody won't be so scared.
So is that a comment or a question? Your voice is really unclear.
Oh, it's a comment.
Okay, so there's no question. So you're trying to say that it was out of fear that nobody was ready to approach Lord Narsingha Dev, right? And that's how Prahlad
So
asked.
scared. So that's why the Lord Krishna knew it. So that's why he told Shiva Bhagwan before he came to take a new form and come and kill him.
Okay, all right. So Suraj also wants to say something.
Yes, I have to say something. Mataji,
Can you be a little loud, please?
if Ravana said no animal or human, why did Krishna take the extra effort to make a new avatar? Why couldn't he just use Narsimhadev?
Because it was in different yuga, na beta? Different yugas, different avatars come, right?
I know, but Narsimhadev, like Lord's avatars are eternal, so they're always there.
Yes, they are always there, but then with one avatar, he doesn't do just one Leela. So when he came as Lord Ram, he wanted to, he wanted the Maryada Purushottam aspect also to be shown to people. So when he comes as avatar, he doesn't do just one Leela, he does multiple things at the same time. So Ravana was one of the aspects, one of the things that he had to take care of, and how he was showing it to all of us that how he had all these. We are learning from the head of the Ravana. He had calm, growth, lobh, everything. So what happens? But at the same time, there were other lessons that he wanted to teach. The Ek Patni Vrata that he was doing in the Leela of Lord Ram, how important it was. So there are multiple things that Lord comes to show us by his example.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now, going back to this. So Sugriv and Vibhishan, they were friends of Lord Ram, but then they were, they were friends who were in awe and reverence of the Lord, right? So they were in the, as you call it, Sambhrama friendship. So there are two types, Samrama and Vishramba. Vishramba is without awe and reverence, just like casual friends. but very, very strong and very deep bond there is, Here, the bond was very strong, but they were always in awe and reverence of the Lord. So, like, if you see in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, we had these cowherd boys who were very, 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 they were not in awe and reverence. They used to think that Krishna is one of us. Such good friends they were. And they used to climb on the shoulders of Krishna. But Sugriv and Vibhishan, they wouldn't dare do that. Why? Because there was this line that there was there. Different relationship, different flavor of friendship, basically. So there was a lot of awe and reverence there. Now, in Krishna's pastimes, there was nothing like that. They were all in Vishrambha form. They considered Krishna to be one of them. They would climb on the shoulders of Krishna. They would snatch his food from his mouth, and likewise, Krishna would do the same. So Krishna never felt offended, because they considered him to be, he considered him to be part of his. So if your leg is touching your own leg, how would it matter? It wouldn't matter, right? So that's how they considered when they were climbing the body of Krishna. Krishna wouldn't mind, because he considered them so dear. Because it's not that friendship was better or this friendship was better. It's just a different flavor, right? So, but Sugriv and Vibhishan, they would consider it to be offensive. They would dare not do that with Lord Ram. Now, to enjoy this pastime, Krishna came as Krishna on the material, level, material plane, just to enjoy not only this, but another pastime was, basically of the conjugal love, the Madhurya Ras, right? Now, Madhurya Ras, again, in Rama Leela, Krishna accepted one Patni Vrata. Okay?
I have
Now,
a question.
yes, tell me. Yes, who has a question?
Me, Meenakshi.
Yes, Meenakshi, tell me, beta. You're on mute.
I don't have a question.
You don't have a question. Sanvi has a question. Is that what it is? Okay, never mind. We'll move on. Now, oh, Manahar has a question. Okay, tell me, Manahar.
So, like in Ram Leela and Krishna Leela, why didn't Lord Narasimha have like parents and all that?
Why did Nrsimhadev have what?
Like in the Leela's parents, like Leela parents.
Oh, so see, again, that's another thing. He doesn't accept, because he did not accept parents in Narsingha Leela, and he wanted to enjoy the Vatsalya Bhav. That's how he accepted parents in Lord Ram Leela. That's how we were talking, how the Virya Ras led to Vatsalya Ras, right?
Yeah.
So different mellows, because when he came as Narsinghadev, what he wanted to enjoy was the Virya Ras. He wanted to enjoy the act of chivalry, the how the fighting spirit is, because he is the Supreme Lord who is full in six opulences, one of them being strength. But how would you enjoy the strength that you have unless you have an opponent with whom you can fight? So that's what he wanted to enjoy. That's when he came as Nrsimhadev. In fact, all these six demons that we talked about, Jay and Vijay, they took these forms. That was for this particular rasa that he wanted to enjoy. But because we came in this rasa...
There's a question.
Yes, please. Let me finish answering this. And because then that's when he enjoyed when he saw Prahlad Maharaj, and when he himself put Prahlad Maharaj on his lap and Prahlad Maharaj was able to pacify him, that's when he understood that this is the rasa that he wanted to enjoy, of being held, of being cuddled. And that's when he accepted parents in Lord Ram's avatar. Yes, Meenakshi. Is that clear, Manahar?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, Meenakshi, what is your question now? No question? All right, so we'll move it. Now, as we were discussing, so to enjoy the particular rasa of friendship, where it was more of on the equals level, that's how Lord came as Lord Krishna, and he enjoyed that. Now in Lord Krishna's form, I mean, he when he came in the material world as Lord Krishna, another mellow that he thoroughly enjoyed was the Madhurya Ras, the conjugal. Now in that is also of two kind, right? We understand that it is union and separation, so it is milan and viraha. In Ram Leela, he did enjoy both milan and viraha, um, when Mother Sita was kidnapped, right? So he enjoyed both the union and separation. But there's another flavor to it, which is variegatedness. There was no variegatedness in that particular pastime. And to enjoy that, he came as Lord, Lord came as himself, Krishna, where he enjoyed that the mood of separation. There are two kind of rasas, parakya and swakya. Swakya is when you enjoy the conjugal pastimes with your beloved wife, and parakya is when you enjoy the pastime with the paramour. So this is what he enjoyed when he came as Sri Krishna. All these gopis, including Srimati Radharani. So when they were having these pastimes with Lord Krishna, that time they were not married, though all these gopis and they are his eternal associates, but just they were enacting a pastime when they came in this material world. And this is what Krishna and Radharani were enjoying, this conjugal love. So Krishna, he is also known as Radha Kanta. If you understand, Radha Kanta is basically the husband of Srimati Radharani, and Gopi Kanta, which is the husband of the gopis. If you know the pastime, so there is a pastime which describes how Lord Brahma had ended up getting them married, but that's not the point. The point is to enjoy the variegatedness of the rasa. He came as Sri Krishna, because in Rama Leela only Swakya ras was relished, and not the Parakya ras. But to enjoy the Parakya ras, Krishna made his own wives, and the wives of others. Gopis were the wives of other Gopas, basically cowherd boys. But as we know, there was a particular melody that would draw them to Krishna, and of the flute. And then when they would leave, only their spiritual body would go, not their material body. So this is how the Lord enjoyed this uh, pastime. So as we see in the slide, so one rasa led to another rasa, and to enjoy that rasa, one incarnation led to the another one. So this is how it explains that greed caused one incarnation of Lord after another to descend. Now, still, the three main reasons for which Mahaprabhu appeared were, as we know, that what is the love of Radharani, and what is his all attractive beauty that he, as Krishna, could not relish. And then the third was, what happiness does Srimati Radharani derive by relishing this beauty of Lord Shri Krishna. So to fulfill these three types of greeds, which these remained unfulfilled in the pastimes of Krishna, and that therefore the Lord appeared as Mahaprabhu. So these are the kind of greeds that we need to develop, because material greed is not going to take us anywhere, but it is this material we greed. Actually, the way you see the material in the pastime of Nimai and the thieves, it was taking you round and round the house, and you were back to where you were. That is what the material Shrama Evahi Kevalam. It's going to, you'll make an effort, you'll do whatever you want to, but you are back to square one. You're still in this material world. You're not able to get out of this material world. Whereas in the spiritual world, to go back to spiritual world, we just need to develop the spiritual desire. And what is that spiritual desire? Basically to serve Sri Krishna. That is the only price we need to pay. The greediness to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The greediness to have or to achieve success in devotional service. It's not the regular money or the good parentage or beauty, whatever. That's not what we are looking for. What we are looking for, the kind of greed, is the greed to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So greed is also called lobh or lolyam, or lalsa. Lalsa, all these are the terms which describe what greed does. So we should make an effort from our end with our body, mind, and words to serve Krishna. Then it is up to, from our end, we should have two things: the desire to serve Krishna and the effort that we make to serve Krishna. Okay? Then it is up to Krishna. Who is that person who's going to force or convince the Supreme Lord to bestow mercy upon us? Is the Guru. So by the mercy of Guru, Krishna is going to, we get Krishna, and by our own effort and the desire to serve Krishna, that is what we are looking for. So this is what greed is all about, and this is the kind of greed we need to develop. Now, anybody has any questions? I hope it was clear how one rasa led to the other rasa and how one incarnation led to the descent of the another one. Anybody has any questions?
No.
All right. So it looks like it's clear to everyone. So we'll end here and we will resume next Wednesday. What we learned from today's class is material greed should be given up, and spiritual greed is only what is going to help us advance and go back to Godhead. Okay? So the greed to serve the Lord is what we are looking for. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So we'll end here. I'll see you next Wednesday. Okay?
Goodbye,
Thank you.
Mataji.
Thank you,
All right,
Mataji,
thank
for
you
the
so
class.
much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you,
Thank
Mataji.
you,
Mataji. Thank you.
Bye.